All of us, myself included, have been guilty of either overhyping or underhyping a ride before riding it. It is when we get these experiences that you realize that you can't judge a ride until you experience it for yourself. This has happened to me many times because I'm one of those people that like to research all the ins and outs of a park before visiting, and this can make you think that you know what to expect when you really don't. Sometimes these feelings can come from the day you rode it on. It is a fact that rides run better in different conditions, so if you're blown away by a coaster on my disappointing list, just keep that in mind. At the number 5 most disappointing spot, I have Maverick at Cedar Point. I don't really know what to think about Maverick. Off-ride, it looks like a top coaster in the world, incredible layout, forceful launches, whippy transitions, but when I rode it, it was running extremely slow and kind of crawled through its layout. I think that might have been a problem with the launch to lift hill though, because we were waiting on the launch for about a good 10 minutes, and it also seemed kind of slow. It also didn't help that the whole time I was just wishing for the ride to be over because how much those restraints were digging into my shoulders. Based on POVs, I can tell that I just got a bad ride though, which is why I have it around the 10th spot in my overall coaster ranking, but that doesn't keep it from appearing on this list. At the number 5 most surprising coaster spot, I have Gemini, another coaster from Cedar Point. Gemini is the incarnation of the phrase, looks can be deceiving. Just looking at the POV of Gemini, you think it's just another jolty mine train, but POVs can't show the fun factor of Gemini. Even if you're at the park standing right next to the ride, you still won't be able to understand why this ride is so special. You probably would just think that it's just a narrow jank machine, but a little bit taller. You wouldn't be wrong in thinking that it's janky, but that more just adds to the fun of the ride because you never know what's going to happen next. Then there's the racing aspect, which makes the ride twice as good, mainly because of how close you are to the other train. There's just something so enjoyable about Gemini that's hard to put into words. At the number 4 most disappointing spot, we come to Viper at Six Flags Great America. Prior to riding Viper, I had only heard amazing things about it. I was expecting it to be my number 2 Woody, right behind Goliath at the same park, because people were saying that was one of the most underrated coasters out there, and that was a borderline top 10 Woody in the United States. Well then, I must have ridden all the best Woodies in the US, because I have it ranked as my number 10 wooden coaster that I've ridden out of 11 total, with only Wildcat at Hershey Park behind it. Now don't get me wrong, I loved the ride as I've enjoyed every single wooden coaster I've been on, but it just didn't live up to my probably unfair expectations. I found that the ride has some great flip-ejector airtime, aka the best airtime, but other than that, it really had nothing. I wouldn't call it rough, but it definitely wasn't smooth either. It just kind of meandered through its whole layout. Maybe I just caught it on a bad day, but it was a summer afternoon, second to back row, so I don't really think so. The number 4 most surprising coaster was Swamp Fox at Family Kingdom. There are 2 main reasons that went into this coaster finding a spot on the list. First of all, I had no idea going into the ride that it has buzz bars, those single position restraints that rest about a foot above your lap, providing you massive amounts of airtime. Second of all, I am not sure I've ever seen a coaster enthusiast talk about this ride, mainly because it's located at a glorified fairground with 3 coasters, one of which is the worst coaster I've ever been on, and the other is a wacky worm. I was only going there because I was in Myrtle Beach with my baseball team and that was the only park there, and I also remember looking in the POV and thinking, what is this? It's full of short drops and random turns, but it turns out that in the back you get absolutely yeeted and it's amazing. Superman Ultimate Flight at Six Flags Great America comes at the number 3 most disappointing coaster spot. I had high hopes for Superman going in because earlier in the year I had ridden Batwing at Six Flags America, my first flying coaster, and absolutely loved it. It's somewhere around my number 20 in my overall coaster ranking, and in addition to that, I had always heard that B&M Flyers are so much better than Flying Dutchmans. So you can probably guess that I was expecting Superman to be really good, but then I get on the ride and we're off to a great start with that pretzel loop, but after that, man, it really does absolutely nothing. Just going through some turns at maybe 35 miles per hour tops while still managing to have a rattle. I still enjoyed the ride, but it wasn't anything special. The number 3 most surprising coaster I've experienced was Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America. I knew that I was going to enjoy Superman and that would be the best ride in the park, but I didn't expect it to be this good. Like Gemini, the POV just doesn't give Superman justice. League. I'm sorry about that, I'm just gonna leave. But anyway, the helixes look like pointless, boring elements, and while it's a little true for the second one, the first one is incredible. It's relatively soon after the drop, so you still have all that speed, and you can pull a sustained 4.5 Gs on a hot summer day. Then you have that straight track that also looks dumb until you actually ride it and get to feel that sense of speed, flying through the woods, or if you're in Darien, like skidding across the water. Then, right after that, you have the single greatest airtime moment that I've ever experienced, and it has to be one of the best airtime moments in the world. There are a total of 6 incredible airtime moments, including 3 in one of the best finales to the coaster in the world. Superman is really a ride that you have to ride a couple of times to truly understand. At the number 2 most disappointing coaster spot, I have Raptor at Cedar Point. Prior to riding Raptor, I had ridden two B&M inverts, Grape Air, one of the best coasters out there, and a Hungarian Horntail, an overrated but still enjoyable ride. Raptor has a better layout than both of these, so I mean, it has to be a great ride, right? Nope. Thinking about Raptor just gives me flashbacks to the pain. Those rock hard restraints, man, I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. Yeah, it was rough, and since those restraints made it painful, I didn't enjoy the ride because I don't like headaches, believe it or not. Raptor does have a great layout though, so I could see how on certain days it might be amazing, but I caught an awful day. Number 2 most surprising was Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis. I'd only heard negative things about Ninja prior to riding, and it's a relocated Aero/Vekoma hybrid that had problems in the construction phase, so I was expecting the worst. To my surprise, I thought it was great. No, I'll even go there. I thought it was a fantastic ride. People complained about Ninja being rough, but I really didn't think it was rough at all. I probably banged my head one time, and that was on the corkscrew, and I kid you not, Ninja is the only coaster that I've ever blacked out on. Yes, I blacked out on Ninja on that Sidewinder, and it's not even like I'm weak, because I've only grayed out on one other coaster, that being Ride of Steel like we just talked about. And I also know that I wasn't dehydrated because it was one of my first rides of the day on a cool cloudy morning. We're down to the number 1 disappointment, that was FIREBIRD at Six Flags America. I loved Rougarou at Cedar Point, another stand-up to Florist conversion, so I thought that giving Apocalypse that treatment could make it a great ride. Yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth. They reduced the trains from 7 cars to 6, decreasing the weight and making the ride rougher than it was before, and they took out all the fantastic apocalyptic theming. And finally, any forcefulness that it had before just doesn't work with the sit-down train. There's one positive that I can find from FIREBIRD, well actually two. First of all, that paint job, but second of all, those new trains cost a lot of money, much more than you think. And with that, plus their new for 2020 Giant Discovery, new entrance plaza and Gotham City overhaul, and tons of more minor things, you can see Six Flags is finally starting to invest some money into the park with limitless potential and land. And the number 1 coaster that surprised me is MAXX Force at Six Flags Great America. Going in, I knew MAXX Force was going to be pretty good. I would guess number 3 in the park behind Goliath and Raging Bull, but no, it takes the number 1 spot and by a fair margin. It has the most forceful launch in America, but it doesn't just end at the launch. After that, it manages an element that tops the launch, and the single greatest element I've ever experienced, the dog tongue. That's not even to mention that it's smooth, it makes amazing sounds, there's incredible hang time, and it has some of the best restraints in the industry. Every single part of MAXX Force has a reason to it, and I have to applaud Six Flags and SNS for that. 10 out of 10 ride. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to leave your thoughts, suggestions, and video ideas in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later.